Hey everybody, it's Thorn, and in this video I want to speak a little bit more broadly than I normally would. I want to talk about participating in online communities and how to have better experiences, particularly in places like Discord servers and forums, but even in comment sections on YouTube videos, maybe on larger platforms like Twitter, right? You be the judge here. But I want to talk just generally about the experience of being online, because obviously, right, there's a lot of discourse today around, I even hate the word discourse now anymore. There's a lot of conversation about being online in healthy ways. Like, does online community pose the same kind of value that meat space communities have? Are online communities, especially Discord servers, are they doing more harm than good? That sort of thing. But I think kind of the piece that folks are often missing is that the reason we're all online is because most of us, all of us really, are longing for some kind of connection, whether that's casual, if we're looking for information or training, camaraderie, friendship, whatever. Like, we're online to connect with other people who are passionate about the same things that we are. And like, that's not going away. So as long as we are turning to online spaces and increasingly reliant on online spaces, it's worth thinking about how to have the best experiences possible in those spaces. I've learned a lot about this in the same way I'm sure you all have, just by virtue of being on all kinds of social media. Growing up, well, even I grew up without the internet, okay, but when we got the internet, really like in high school, and then later I was on LiveJournal and America Online, right, places like that. There were all kinds of smaller kinds of blogging platforms like Pagan Space or Coven Space, things like that, and YouTube eventually. And I got online and joined those spaces because I was really isolated as a young witch. I didn't have a coven that I was working with. As a teenager, I was too young to be working with a coven anyway. And then when I moved and I went to college, I felt like I didn't know other people who were pagans or witches or magicians or whatever. And that really just, stretched into my adulthood. And social media in particular has really morphed into something else, right? Like, YouTube used to be primarily about people vlogging, and now it's become this great kind of information exchange where everybody's a content creator now, and the whole point is like to educate people, right? So people run their channels like TV programs, and there's good and bad that goes along with that, right? Instagram, it's about connection, but it's also about it's also about vanity, and it's also about showing off, and it's also about marketing, right? Like, Instagram is primarily a marketing platform, right? Like, anyway, like, there's good and there's bad that goes along with that. And I've learned a lot in the last couple of years running my own Discord server. And like, that's been really great. I've found that my favorite platform right now, is Discord, really. But like, again, like, there's good and bad. I've had a lot of luck with my own server, and there's all kinds of reasons, I think, for why that's been such a positive environment. Frankly, I think one of the reasons is that there's a paywall. It's associated with Patreon, which means that there's a subscriber fee built in. It's $1, okay? But just that means that there are no trolls, right? You immediately get rid of all kinds of trolling because people can't just breeze through. Everybody who's there has a stake in being there, even though it's only $1, right? Totally changes the character of the platform, right? Whatever else we might have to say about putting paywalls in place, like, that's one of the results, is you eliminate trolling. And that did a lot for me. So I want to think beyond paywalls, right? Okay, because that's obviously not the solution for everything. Beyond paywalls, I want to talk about, like, what does it look like to approach a community online in a healthy way and to get what you want out of it. So these are some kind of things I've compiled here in front of me. The first thing that I want to talk about is going in with a plan, because I think the other thing that people don't realize is that individual platforms have different purposes, and they have things that they are good at and things that they are bad at, even if we try to do all things on all platforms. So some platforms lend themselves really well to education. Like YouTube is great for that. If you're interested in doing a lot of learning, especially learning for free, and you love the video format, YouTube is a great place for that. Right? Instagram, right? Great for photos, less so for lots and lots of text. Okay, it seems self-explanatory, but those are things to think about. So are you looking for education, or are you looking for friends? Are you looking for people to help you vet information to decide whether or not sources are trustworthy? Like, those are all different purposes. And you can potentially get all of those things in one place, like a Discord server, for example. But it's helpful to have in mind and to sit and ask yourself, what do I really want? Because the answer to that question is going to determine how you interact in those spaces. For example, if you're just looking for information, resources, reading lists, then maybe lurking in a Discord server is a great option, okay? But if you're looking for friends, you're going to be less likely to lurk. You're going to be more likely to be looking to interact with folks, maybe to share pieces of your mundane life in addition to your magical life, right? Like, you make different choices based on what you need. And so do the other people in that same space. And if you're not all kind of on the same page about what the space is for, that can lead to a lot of problems, okay? So that's an important component. That's a good place to start. Why are you there? Because that's going to determine what platform you choose. The second piece of advice I would give is to choose spiritually, magically, whatever, choose mixed spaces where possible. Now, obviously, there is a time and a place to really narrow down the sorts of people you want to interact with, right? If you're looking at a very specific tradition of magic, or a specific cultural group, a specific human experience of magic, etc., like, then it's worthwhile seeking out very specific groups. But generally speaking, I've found that the best conversations, and sometimes the most insightful and challenging conversations, are peopled by folks who have different experiences, practice different kinds of magic, and have different practices. My own Discord server has folks from all over the place. I'm a Wiccan, okay, and I've got experience in other kinds of witchcraft, but it's not a secret, okay, that I'm a Gardnerian. But the people who are in my Discord server aren't all Gardnerians. Overwhelmingly, they're not Wiccans, right? They have backgrounds that are often very different from mine. They're there in the space because we have things in common in terms of other pieces of our experience, or how we interact with the world, how we think. We have other things in common, not necessarily the gods we're talking to, or the specific kind of spell work we do, or whatever. When you are around people who think differently than you, and I'm talking specifically magically here. This is not me advocating for you being in spaces with people who hold politically abhorrent views, okay? That's not what I'm saying. But, you know, like, go be in the Discord server that has the druids and the witches, okay? Right? Like mix it up. You want folks from different spaces, I think, contributing their experiences. It makes things a lot more interesting. It also prevents misinformation from spreading, I think. You know, I've floated through Discord servers several times, and I see people talking about folks who aren't there, right? You're having a conversation about Wiccans, or about, you know, young women on YouTube making videos or whatever. And people will say things that are just like factually incorrect, or they're just, you know, impacted by their own kinds of biases that maybe they aren't aware of. And there's nobody there from that demographic or that tradition or whatever to go, no, actually, like, that's not how it is, or that's not what that experience is like. You want to be in spaces where those voices are present. I think that does a lot to keep misinformation from spreading, and that's something that's really important, especially today. Kind of on a related note, I think, when choosing a space to hang out, and I've made videos about this in the past, I cannot emphasize enough how important I think it is to not be the expert in the room. I think pretty strongly, if you're the expert in the space, especially if it's a general kind of space, it's not like you are the teacher, everybody agrees that you are the teacher, people are there to learn from you. But if you've just floated into like a chat room or a Facebook group or a Discord server or whatever, do people still have chat rooms? If you are the expert in the room, you are in the wrong room. I think that can lead to, it can lead to a lot of, I think, like problems with like authority and ego. It's a good way to get a big head about how much you know. It's a really good way to just totally put a stopper on you taking steps forward, right? One of the ways we learn is by hanging out with people who know more. So if you get into a space for beginners and you're not a beginner, like maybe find a different space. And we could make the argument that, oh, well, you need people who know more in that room. Sure. And if your aspiration is to be a teacher and you, again, like are in a space where people have consented to view you as a teacher, then that's a different sort of scenario. But if you've just decided that you're going to be the authority, like I think that's a problem for them and for you. Couple of other things, because this video is getting a little long. First, just generally, one of the complaints that I see online, particularly about Discord, is that most servers are just dead. You go in there, people post once in a while, and then there's nothing, and then they just die, and the server shuts down. So a couple of tips just specifically related to that. Just partially like coming from my experience as a classroom teacher, somebody who's accustomed to facilitating conversations, and somebody who just spends a lot of time online. Drop the small talk. Just drop it. Like if you post and the only thing you have to say is, hey, everybody, or how's your day? Nobody responds to those posts because nobody cares. Like I know like in day-to-day, like in the elevator, in the office, whatever, in the hallways, like we're accustomed to greeting people that way. But those greetings really don't work well online because you're not dealing with people in real time most of the time. And like if hours have lapsed by and I log into a server and all I see is, hey, everyone, and it's been hours, like, I'm not going to be like, hey, right? Like, that's how servers die. Instead of that, post the actual thing that you want to talk about. Like, if you've got a question, if you want to talk specifically, maybe something cool happened at work, or you read this neat thing in a book, instead of being like, hey, how's everyone's day? Because nobody wants to talk about your day. No, even people who pretend to care don't really care. If you don't know each other, nobody cares how your day is going, right? It's much better to be like, you know, hey, everyone, I just read this thing in this book. Like, have you heard about this? That will get you an answer. Hey, won't, right? Hey, everybody, like, oh, man, I'm so mad. My boss said this to me at work and blah, 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 blah. And like, what do I do about it? Or like, ugh, that will get you a response, right? What's going on? Will not. So talk about the thing you actually want to talk about and drop the small talk. Nobody got onto the magical witchcraft, pagan, whatever Discord server to like just make small talk. Like if you're there to talk about magic, talk about magic. Just like be brave. It'll make it better, I promise. I think that's enough for right now. Okay. I hope that this is helpful. This has certainly been, it's been a learning curve for me being online, particularly on Discord. But yeah, I think that we're going to increasingly rely on those spaces and we may as well get good at using them. So hope everybody's having a good February and I'll see you next time.